Hello and welcome to Beads Jar. In today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this rather spectacular firework necklace using a fabulous combination of Swarovski crystals and Czech dagger beads. I hope you enjoy it. For our project today, we're going to be working with two different thicknesses of cable wire. So I have a 0.18 and a 0.15. The 1.5 is going to make our soft drop tassel sections. I'm then using, for beads, a nice selection. I've got the Czech dagger beads, 6mm Swarovskis, 4mm Swarovskis, the Dirk 2mm, and we've got some Miyuki seed beads. To fasten it, we've got the lobster clasp in the antique gold, 2 necklace ends, culottes, and 2 jump rings, as well as some crimp beads. Tool-wise, all I'm going to be requiring is 2 pairs of flat nose pliers and some side cutters. To start, you want to cut 8 lengths of 22 centimetres in the 0.15, so that's 8 lengths of that one, and 1 50 centimetre length in the 0.18. So I've got my 50 centimetre in the 0.18 wire, and I'm just going to position this so I've kind of got my centre here. I'm then going to take 2 strands in the 0.15 and I'm going to start with a crimp bead onto the 0.18 wire. So I'm using an antique gold because that's the colours that I'm wanting to use. So I'm positioning that roughly into the centre of the 0.18, and I'm going to also put one of the 6mm crystals. Followed by another crimp bead. So this is going to be roughly in the centre. It may move as we start putting our threads through, but we can always reposition this. So then taking the 0.15, both strands together, 2 ends, I'm going to take these through the crimp and the crystal and the crimp on the other side. So we now have all 3. You then want to make sure that the crystal is positioned in the centre of the 0.18. So we're just going to have to wriggle that round a bit. I'm just going to lightly hold that. And then going to pull the 0.15 through, so again they're kind of set in the centre as well. So we've got even sides, even lengths, and then nice and simply I'm just going to manipulate that round to the top. So these are my finer 0.15s, and then with some flat nose pliers I'm going to crush the crimp bead either side. So a nice firm squeeze onto the wire, and then to make it easier for myself I'm just going to flip that round so I can get a better position to crush the crimp on this side. That's now secured the 2 strands to the 0.18. I'm going to repeat this, so I'm going to do another 2 crystals either side with the same method. So first placing the crimp, but don't crush it, and then a 6mm crystal. another 2 in the 0.15, and through the crimp, the crystal and the crimp again. Make sure all the strands go through. Don't want one slipping out to the side. And then we're going to pull the finer strands. And now I want to position that. I'm going to use a ruler at this point, and I'm going to do the crystal with a space of 2.5 along the wire. So from that crimp bead to the other one. And use my pliers again to crush the crimp in place. The wires are a little springy at this point, but we will correct that when we get to making the firework effect with these softer wires as well. So this was my center. I'm working to my right. I've got my next bead here, next crystal there, and I'm now going to start on the third crystal. This time I'm only going to put one of the finer cable wires through. So I'm going to place my crimp bead, 6mm, crimp bead, and just one single 0.15. We'll get the same spacing on this one, so 2.5 from the crimp to the other crimp. And then we're going to crush that. Move that other one up to it, and we crush that side as well. So that's the right hand side done for my crystals, and to make it easier for myself, I'm just going to flip my project round and I'll continue. So this is the center one, and I'm going to do the same that we've done on this side to the right again. Now what you'll have is your main necklace wire running through the center and at the top, and then your finer wires all coming out in this firework frenzy at the bottom. We want these to lay a little bit lower down, and the weight of the beads we add will create this effect as well. But you can also very gently, if you hold the base of the tail of the wire and you're going to pull across, so across from the crimp bead and down, and this will bring them in a bit, and so they won't be as springy. So I'm just going to go all the way around those and just bring them in. We can also do this at the end if you want them to sit differently. Wonderful. So we're going to take the project up a bit and we're going to start from our center Swarovski and we're going to go from the strands from that. So we should have 2 from one side and 2 strands from the other. And we're going to add our beads. This really is very up to you how fancy you want to go, how many beads you want to put on. Obviously I'll demonstrate with my choices, but you can put whatever you like. So I'm going to thread one of the Mayukis, one of the Druk beads and one of the 4mm crystals, and this is from the 6mm, and then I'm going to put a crimp bead at the bottom. And I want to place this about 2 centimeters from the crystal coming down. When I'm happy with the position, I'm just going to crush the crimp bead flat. And then they can't go further down the wire. I'm now going to go to the bottom of the same wire. And I am going to thread onto there. A slight variation from what I just did, and I'm also going to put a 6mm crystal. So we've got one of the Mayukis, one of the Druk beads, a 6mm crystal, and the crimp bead. So that was the top section I did. And I'm wanting that staggered a little bit lower down. And we're going to crimp it. For the base though, it's a slightly bit different because we're going to add the crimp bead first. So you want to thread your crimp bead onto your wire. I'm then going to place one of the seed beads, a 4mm crystal. So I've got my non-crimped crimp bead here, and then I'm going to add one of the Czech daggers. So you're going to go through one side, but obviously we want this to sit forward. So I'm going to take this wire back on itself, and I'm going to bring the crystal and the seed beads and the crimp all the way down the wire. Until I'm happy with how that is positioned. And with my pliers, so we have a small tail end of wire here, I'm just going to crush the crimp bead. And then using the side cutters, we're going to take this wire off. So get in as close as you can and cut that away. So that gives you your first drop on this necklace. And we're going to continue, and you're just going to keep making sure that you stagger the beads around to create this flamboyant firework effect throughout the necklace. So on the next strand, I may position just one section of beads before adding the drop at the bottom. You also want to vary the lengths. So I'll keep going and you can just add as you want. It's quite a freestyle necklace for you to create the effect that you want. Right, we now have this beautiful firework effect with the wires. As I mentioned before, when the weight of the beads is on, it does hold them down quite a lot to give you that beautiful effect. So if the wires are still a bit springy and you're unhappy, you can use the technique I showed you before, which is to pull them across. However, I think generally I'm happy with how this one's sitting. So now it's on to the fastener. So you're going to choose the length that you want for your necklace first. So whether you've got a model or you want to measure it. You don't want this sitting too low because obviously the tassels will then disappear under the clothing. So I'm getting this to a kind of choker length for the purposes I want, and I'm just going to take away any excess wire I've got there. So I'm prepared to put my fastener on. And in order to do that, we're going to use the culotte. Now there's one side with a hook, and then this is the bottom side with the hole. And we want the wire to go through from the hole and out, so the hook's facing away from our beads on this side. You can let that fall down the wire a bit, it doesn't matter. And then we're going to add a crimp bead to the top of this. So I've put my crimp bead on the wire, and now I'm going to crush that at the very tip of the wire using the pliers. So I'm just going to guide that up to the position I want, and I'm going to crush that flat. Once my crimp bead's crushed, I'm going to push against that to make sure it's nice and secure. And then the culotte's going to come back up the wire to the crimp. So you can see it's sat there. I'm going to gently tease the two sides together with my thumb and forefinger. And then I'm going to finish closing the culotte using the flat nose pliers. I'm just going to get either side of the culotte and tease those two sides together. You don't have to crush that, it's the crimp bead that's holding the culotte in place. As you can see, it's not coming off there. Do the same on the other side. So we go through from bottom to top with the wire. Crimp bead goes on. And then we're going to crush that at the top of this wire. Check it's nice and secure. The culotte goes up to this crimp bead, and as I said, I'm just going to tease it together a bit more with my fingers first, and then I can nicely finish that with my pliers, like so. So we've now got both our culottes here. And I'm going to pick up a second pair of flat nose pliers and my jump ring. Face the jump ring with the split away from you, and then hold one side with another pair of pliers. And you just want to bring one side towards you and one away to open it. And I'm going to attach that onto the loop of my lobster clasp. Go through. And then I'm going to close that the same way I opened it, and there I know that there's no gap when I've closed my jump ring. Place that on the culotte, so having the hook facing up towards you. And then with my pliers, I'm going to go underneath and just on top of that hook, and I'm just going to gently tease that in, closing that together so that my jump ring can't escape. On this side, we just want the jump ring. So I tend to hold that culotte on the end of my finger, place the jump ring in, and then you want to get both sides, so top and bottom, and then you're going to gently just tease that in until it meets itself, and that's sealed together. And that is your fastener complete for that project. And that is the spectacular firework necklace. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you again next time. If you've enjoyed the tutorial, give us a good big thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch all of our next inspirational videos. Bye!